Hi, this is Haley Perry, and I'm going to be the first presenter of the Art of Expressive Stitching by Liz Bessel and Haley Perry. And I wanted to start off by showing some of our work. On the left there is As the Crow Flies by Liz Bessel, and on the right is some of my work, this piece called Growth by myself, Haley Perry. And we are two fiber artists from the Rhode Island area, and we both work with different stitching techniques, Liz being many different kinds of quilt stitching and embroidery and slow stitching, hand stitching techniques, and myself as a hooked rug artist. So even though we employ different techniques in our work, we've both seen a lot of value in the slow sort of hand stitching techniques that we do, and we've watched our work grow because of it and become more expressive. So let's start off by defining what stitching even is. Stitching is the art of joining two different kinds of fabric together with thread, yarn, etc. Knitting and crochet are also considered stitching, even though that's not necessarily what we're currently using in our work. You can even sew stitches on different types of machines, but the hand kind of stitching is the one that results in the most kind of repetitive movements, leading to a more meditative mind. And you can use stitching to make marks, explore color. You can even use it to make functional objects. Stitching is a very broad term for all those different things. Expressive stitching is sort of the state in which you feel from doing this kind of handwork. It's mindful, it leads to meditation or a flow state. It allows one to be immersed in the present moment. Again, that's kind of the same as that flow state. It also helps you solve problems and increases your neuroplasticity. So it fights against aging, reduces stress, and lowers blood pressure. It also leads to a sense of accomplishment by actually releasing dopamine and results in more expressive artwork, which we're going to talk about. So as I mentioned before, I am a hooked rug artist, and this technique is native to right where we are, New England, Maritime Canada, North America. And it's a process in which I use wool fabric strips or different types of yarns to create loops over and over and over again on a foundation material to make rugs. You can use these in your home. You can use them as home decor items or functional objects. I tend to make more expressive artwork out of them, wall hangings and things like that. It's really simple technically. You really only need a foundation material, such as burlap, monk's cloth, or linen, a hook, a hoop, or a frame to stretch your foundation fabric taut, and then you need whatever kind of material you're going to be looping through that foundation material to make your project. So pretty simple supply-wise, and pretty humble technique. So here is a video that I'm going to show. Um, I can't click on it here, but you can find this video on YouTube. That's Loop by Loop Studio on YouTube, and it shows the simple stitching technique. What's shown here on this slide is basically the hook in my hands, the foundation fabric stretched within the hoop, and you can see I have one hand with the hook working on top. On the underside, I am holding a wool fabric strip, and then I'm going to be pulling it through loop after loop on this foundation fabric. But you can find that video on loopbyloopstudio.com or YouTube Loop by Loop Studio, and you can see how simple this technique is. So my journey in the arts started back in the early 2000s when I went to art school, and I am a painter, a fine artist trained painter, and I tend to make lots of very abstract work, lots of texture, collage materials, very color focused. And it wasn't until about 2013 that when I came out of grad school, that I started my rug hooking journey. And I started a business called Loop by Loop Studio, and I started making rugs that were more commercial based. I now make kits and patterns from my projects, and then I sell those to other rug hookers. I also teach rug hooking. But you can see a difference between sort of my more commercial work On the right there, that chickadees rug, and my more fine artwork, which is obviously very abstract. And so there's a real divide between my work when I started rug hooking and my rug hooking business, between commercial and fine art, or craft and fine art, you could say. I do have some great influences when it comes to rug hooking and beyond. I happen to have an aunt named Deanne Fitzpatrick, who's somewhat well known, or very well known in the rug hooking world, for her large landscape-based rugs that are very colorful, very textural, and she's been a great influence on myself as an artist, but also as a businesswoman, because she also has a rug hooking business. In the middle there is an artist named Liz Albert Fay from Connecticut, and she is somebody who she is a craft artist and a fine artist, but she sort of bends what rug hooking can be by making very shaped work, and very abstract work that sort of relates back to nature, or sort of stretches the boundaries of the craft as we know it. So I'm very influenced by her work as well. And then right now, as an artist, I'm influenced by the work of Elizabeth Murray. I always have been, but right now I'm making a lot of shaped work myself. So her paintings and her graphic style is really resonating with me as an artist as well. And she's a painter in the New York area. She's no longer alive, but she made these large, as you can see, very shaped paintings that are very colorful. So my work, after a few years of making more commercial designs, they usually just had a subject matter on a background. I started embedding story into my work and straying from that commercial work a bit to make work for myself is what I consider my portfolio work, or my more narrative work. And I started finding my own visual language within this type of stitching. My work also became a little more illustrative, and I credit that to the years of working with more commercial subject matter, where I was working on objects on background. So I started telling a more personal narrative using different symbolism in my work, such as hands and eyes, crows. The skies started becoming really important, and my work for myself and rug hooking was also very landscape based, which is what I've always considered my paintings. So they started to become a little bit more of a bridge between these two types of artwork that I have been making, but with a really large addition of being story and narrative and personal. Ideas that have really never been in my artwork, because I've always been such an abstract artist. The next part of my artwork, and sort of where I'm at now, is again, I mentioned that I'm doing more shaped work. They're mostly abstract, with a little bit of touches of nature or the human body within them. But you can see I've strayed from the canvas and the rectangle quite a bit by making more shaped work, adding more negative space, meaning I've cut into my rugs, completely removing any kind of usability from them. So they've become more sculptural in that way. And really having them relate a lot more to my artwork. What I've actually done in the couple of years that I've been making this kind of work is I've been painting so much more, and I've made a series of smaller sketches and paintings that this work is more based upon. So I would have to say that rug hooking has really benefited my practice in that, well, in many different ways. Firstly, it makes me think very critically when I'm making my designs. Um, and it gives me with hours of meditative hooking time, which positively impacts my health. So this hooking time, as we already kind of mentioned, sort of like this passive flow state, but in that it generates more ideas. So it's passive, but it's also very active. Rug hooking is also technically very easy. I've taught a lot of people how to rug hook, and it's something that I can do with friends. So, there's a community that's been built around rug hooking. And these craft communities tend to be very supportive circles. It has rug hooking has posed me with kind of technical challenges, even though I just mentioned it's technically very easy. The more I push rug hooking, such as making shaped pieces or more sculptural pieces from rug hooking, the more it's allowing me to think outside the box. And that's enhancing my overall creativity. As I already mentioned, my personal storytelling and overall visual language, sort of the symbols I use to tell my stories has become much broader than it ever once was, and that allows me to generate more and more ideas from that language. I start with one idea, such as like the hands, and then I put them in different situations. So it's allowed me to think more broadly. And it's really just made me overall a better and more committed artist because it encourages me to work every single day. When doing something like painting, if we just want to compare the two activities, it's a lot harder for me to stand at the canvas every day to get out my paints and to do something that I feel is more high pressure than to sort of passively stitch. And this stitching allows me to make a little more progress on my rug every day. And therefore, am creative every day and I look forward to that creativity every day. So, in all these different ways, whether it's helping me to stitch every day, that stitching time is helping my mental health because it's allowing me to sort of slow down and be in the moment. It's also, like I said, helping me come up with more ideas, and this is all impacting my rug hooking work and my painting work, which is now, instead of being two completely separate categories, it's all working together in one very satisfying way. And it's really, really, like I said, a credit to the mindful stitching that rug hooking has provided me with. So I'm going to end this recording here. And when you come back, Liz Bessel's going to talk a little bit about her work.